Welcome to episode 3 of Royal LePage Binder's History of Windsor and Essex County. As Windsor and Essex County's real estate brokerage, we wanted to learn and share our history with you. Over our last 2 videos, we covered centuries of history, leading all the way up to 1935 with the amalgamation of Walkerville, Fort City, and Windsor. Today, we're covering our past all the way up to the present day, so let's get started. The amalgamation of Windsor, Fort City, and Walkerville, which was intended to help address the financial and social challenges of the Great Depression, was the inception of modern-day Windsor. Although the Great Depression affected our region just as much as the rest of the country, our local automotive industry, anchored by the big 3 of Chrysler, GM, and Ford, was primed to weather the economic storm and establish Windsor as a critical industrial and manufacturing hub for all of North America. Right on the heels of the end of the Great Depression, World War II broke out in Europe. In 1939, Canada joined the war, and Windsor's manufacturing sector quickly pivoted to support the war effort, producing vital equipment and machinery for the Allied forces. All kinds of military equipment was made locally, including shells, uniforms, parachutes, aircraft parts, tanks, trucks, and more. Beyond the tangible materials produced, Windsor also contributed human resources to the war effort. Many Windsorites enlisted in the armed forces, serving on various fronts and in numerous capacities. The women of Windsor also played an invaluable role, stepping into jobs previously dominated by men, both in factories and in volunteer capacities, exemplifying the collective efforts of the community during those challenging times and cementing women's place within the workforce. Windsor was also an important training ground for Allied pilots. Due to the airspace in Europe being so dangerous, Britain devised a plan to send trainee pilots to Canada for training before being deployed. As a result, Windsor saw over 2,300 potential pilots arrive, and over 1,600 went on to become pilots. Canada's Air Force training efforts led to President Roosevelt referring to us as the aerodrome of democracy. Speaking of airplanes, do you know why our local hockey team, the Windsor Spitfires, are called the Spitfires? It's due to the Royal Canadian Air Force 417 Squadron, nicknamed the City of Windsor, which fought in the Middle East during World War II. The 417 pilots flew Spitfire aircraft, hence the name. In the aftermath of World War II, Windsor and Essex County transitioned from a wartime economy back to a peacetime one. The automotive capital of Canada once again directed its focus on passenger vehicles, leading to a substantial economic boom in the region, with increased employment opportunities and growth. This period also saw a surge in union activities, with the auto workers pushing for better wages and working conditions, culminating in significant strikes, most notably in 1945 and 1955. The results of these strikes helped improve working conditions for all workers across all industries. As the 1950s progressed and turned into the 60s, Windsor and Essex County underwent cultural and social changes. The prosperous economy, coupled with its strategic location along the Detroit River, drew in a diverse group of immigrants. This influx brought in a blend of cultures, traditions, and perspectives. Windsor's proximity to Detroit also played a significant role in shaping its identity. The advent of Motown at the end of the 50s allowed that new sound to float across the river, influenced our local music scene, and led Windsor to become a cultural icon. In the 60s, the most dominant radio station in Detroit was CKLW, the Big 8. However, that station was in Windsor, a 50,000-watt AM station covering southern Ontario and more than a dozen US states. It was a hit factory and influenced what music was popular all over North America. What was so important about CKLW is that it provided a gateway for Canadian musicians to get exposure to American audiences. One of the biggest bands to ever get their start this way was the Guess Who. After being played on CKLW, they became overnight sensations, quickly being signed and taking over the world with their #1 Billboard hit American Woman, all because of a Windsor-based radio station. The ability for artists to access the US audiences was so important that even Canadian music legend Gordon Lightfoot said that because of Windsor, Detroit was the first major American city where you could find yourself. Through the 70s and 80s, manufacturing and optimism about the future remained high. However, with globalization becoming more and more prevalent, the North American auto industries began to feel the pressure as European and Japanese car companies entered our market. This forced our region to diversify. Local government, unions, and the University of Windsor collaborated to provide retraining programs and investment in new business sectors. By the end of the 1980s, these efforts began to pay off, industries such as education, healthcare, and tourism began to become more and more prevalent. This move towards diversification became more important through the 90s and the early 2000s. In 1994, two significant milestones occurred, which reshaped the business and cultural landscape of Windsor-Essex County. The signing of the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, and the opening of Casino Windsor, now known as Caesars Windsor. NAFTA had a significant impact on our region, as it intensified competition among automakers and allowed them to move operations to anywhere in North America. Although Windsor was able to take advantage of its location as a major trade route, it still impacted manufacturing jobs in the region, which made up the backbone of the local economy. However, the opening of Casino Windsor softened the economic blow. As the first casino to open in Ontario, it drew millions of people yearly from both Canada and the US, providing thousands of jobs and driving scores of people into downtown Windsor's businesses. Even today, Caesars Windsor remains one of Windsor's top employers. The pressure on the local automotive industry continued until the global financial collapse in 2008, where it was irreparably damaged. Although GM and Chrysler both filed for bankruptcy, threatening the region's economic future, a blend of bailout packages and restructuring plans, along with our region's resilience and adaptability, saw the industry recover. The need for diversification only intensified, leading us to focus more heavily on renewable energy, technology, and agribusiness. This incredible shift in both business and mindset defines who we are today. Windsor-Essex County is a region in transition. Although we still have a robust automotive industry, every day we become more diversified and stronger because of it. The challenges of the last few decades have fostered a spirit of innovation and adaptability. Through all the highs and lows, Windsor-Essex County remains a testament to the enduring spirit of all of us and our commitment to progress. So this brings us to now. In our next videos, we will be taking a closer look at the different communities that make up our region. We'll explore the best parts of each and why we call this place home. We are Windsor-Essex County's real estate brokerage, and we can't wait to share everything we love about our communities. See you soon.